And this is going to kill the Dodge Charger EV probably indefinitely. Stellantis is already, according to TK's video recently, laying people off that are working on the Charger EV, which is horrible. I hate to hear people's jobs and lives being affected because of a company's horrible decisions to head down a road that had a dead end. Not only a dead end, had a cliff at the end of the dead end that they would drive off. Because they spent, I would say, billions of dollars pursuing the EV ridiculous farce that we all knew. And if you go back to videos that I was shooting during COVID and I was screaming that there is no way they're going to be able to deliver on this ridiculous EV initiative, I don't think that I have this humongous brain in my head and I knew things that others didn't know, but there's, or frankly, more people in the world who will believe anything they're told if it's from someone behind a camera, right? Someone on TV, someone on the news, or if it's in an article online, they will just believe it and just run forward. And there were a lot of folks who were believing that EVs were going to take over. And one clown that believed it was going to take over and got paid tens of millions of dollars for following that path was Carlos Tavares. And as a result, we've all had a Dodge Charger Daytona EV jammed down our throats, which we have rebelled and been repulsed by and not willing to buy based on the sales numbers that are downright just abysmal. No company could make a profit on this. You think of the amount of money that the company spent just to develop this car, to retool factories, and to deliver it to dealerships. They will never see that money again. And now with the dramatic changes with the administration and tax credits going away, it is absolutely inevitable, I believe, just my opinion, I'm going to call this one out, that the Dodge Charger Daytona EV is going to die. It's going to die a slow or maybe even a quick and painful public death, and they're going to slowly have to phase that thing out because it can't make money. Now, I'm okay with it being around. I'm okay with it continuing to be an option. The problem is the price is going to significantly increase. And if you think of the horrible, abysmal sales that have been taking place with the $7,500 tax credit, then can you only imagine what it will look like without a significant shift in a couple things? Either interest rates, which is probably not going to change enough to affect sales on that car, or with this with massive discounts, additional massive discounts. Well, how much further can they go down? They've already been offering discounts on top of the EV tax credits, and I'm going to share with you why many of you have been confused at how this tax credit takes place, because they're jamming leases down everybody's throats. Why would they do such a thing? And the leases they predominantly jam down everybody's throats were 2- and 3-year leases. Now, 3-year leases are pretty standard and well-known, and frankly, the sweet spot, in my opinion. A 2-year lease has never really been advantageous because the payment ends up being too high or significantly higher than a 3-year lease. So, and then a 4-year lease tends to be not any amount lower than a 3-year lease. And the only reason to do it would be to get more miles and to be able to keep the car longer. But you end up having diminished returns because the depreciation of the car screws the whole thing up. So 3-year leases are the way to go. But why is it that Dodge was jamming 2-year leases down our throats? Well, the mathematics are interesting, and the basic policy that's going to change is interesting, and how these things took place and how people were able to get the $7,500 tax credit applied on these leases is something many people don't know. And I only know because I found out through doing the research on whether I would qualify for these things. Let me show you what's going on here. And at the very least, you're going to be really enlightened like I was on how this stuff works. So how the tax credit works is, depending on the car, there's up to a $7,500 tax credit that you can take on your taxes when you buy an EV at a certain price range. And there's a whole bunch of other criteria, but let's just say that's how that works. On a used car, it's $4,000. So that's something we all knew. The problem is, for many people buying what we would consider to be a high-end car, being that Daytona coming out at $75,000 before you add stuff on and approaching $85,000, $90,000, and even the RT, reaching $65,000 plus before they started discounting like crazy and applying these discounts on top of it. People had to make a lot of money to buy that car. So let's go ahead and look at who does not qualify for the tax credits and why this really worked for the Charger and is going to kill it, completely kill it, at least when it comes to pricing or leasing. The lease deals are going to fall apart, and the lease deals are the only way they've been able to move these cars. And remember the sales numbers. The Dodge Charger EV, the first half of this year, the year of launching, only sold 4,300 units compared to the Durango, old platform, at 34,000. So the Durango is staying around because of this. This thing's at 4,300. It makes absolutely no sense. But let's look at this. If you make a single person over $150,000 modified adjusted gross income, you don't qualify for the credit. Married, $300,000, you don't qualify for the credit. Head of household, $225,000, you don't qualify. All other fillers, $150,000, don't qualify. So I'm not flexing here. I don't qualify for any of these things. I don't qualify for any tax credit when buying an EV, period. But you can qualify if you lease the EV. And here's how this was taking place. By the way, this tax credit is going away September 30th. It's gone. It's gone and probably will not come back, which means all EVs and everybody who does qualify will no longer be able to get this. That means every EV on the market suddenly becomes about $7,500 more. Every used car costs $4,000 more, used car to find by 2 years or more. So that's going to kill that market as well for EVs. So how's it going to go with EVs? They already have horrible depreciation as it stands. So what's going to happen now when they've had to pay us off to get us to buy or lease these things? Well, let's go look at how this works. So here's how leasing works. And this is why they were pushing the leases so very hard, because, and I even have this right here, because when you're leasing an EV, the dealer passes the credit to you. They don't have to. They can keep it. And you got to be careful. Sometimes they're shady about it. But your income does not affect your eligibility. So now everybody suddenly can qualify for it, and they could take it directly right up front on the lease. So basically the tax credit applies to the lessor. So applies to the company. So let's say Stellantis Financial gets to take that credit, or Stellantis gets to take that credit, and then they pass it directly on to you, because leases are considered commercial vehicle classifications, so you can take those, meaning no more income credits. Anybody and everybody can buy that thing, and the qualifications kind of go out the window. But here's the magic behind this. The reason why they were pushing this so much is you could literally do a 2-year lease versus a 3-year lease, and if the lease is spread out, if the $7,500 is spread out over the term of the lease, then a 2-year lease could end up being a lot cheaper, because that $7,500 is being spread over 24 months instead of 36 months, and they're taking that entire credit, which is why the leases were such a big push. That will end abruptly on September 30th. It is over. They are done. Whether you purchase the thing or whether you lease the thing, that is gone. And because of the also there were prices of the car that were qualification dependent, meaning over $55,000, I believe it was. You could not. The car had to be under $55,000 to be able to get a credit on the lease, or on a purchase. So just to be clear, tax credit for leased vehicles affect the monthly payment. The lessor takes it and passes the benefit to you through reduced monthly payments or a lower upfront cost. So here's the breakdown just to make it clear. If the lessor decides to pass on the savings, they might spread the $7,500 across the lease term. In this scenario, the impact on your monthly payment would be larger over a shorter lease, 2 years, compared to longer lease, 3 years as the same total amount is divided by fewer months. For example, $7,500 spread over 24 months, $312.50 would reduce payments more than the same amount spread over 36 months. So let's just pay attention here. $312 a month reduction in the payment. That means a $600 payment gets down to $300. That's how these people were getting these things, along with all the other discounts, especially the employee pricing for employees got so low in the $200, $300. It was downright insane. But that's why you want a $312 lower payment, do a 24-month lease. 36-month lease would only be a $208 a month. No matter how you cut it, in September 30th and beyond, payments on these leases are going to increase by approximately $300 or $200 a month on leases. That means to be able to get to these same payments, Dodge is going to have to dramatically reduce the money factor or increase your down payment or drop the price by $7,500 on these cars. They're already discounting so far that there's nothing they can do to outrun this thing. So they've kind of painted themselves in a corner by getting so far ahead of these things with discounts and trying to move them. But with little over 4,000 sold, with credits, with massive discounts, with these lease specials, which were really lease specials with massive discounts, along with tax credits that applied to everybody, because these were commercial type leases for all people who lease cars, that they were able to get these payments ridiculously low. And the most famous and common statement I see on the Dodge Charger EV forums is, the payment was so low, I couldn't resist. I had to do it. As they're loading it onto a flatbed truck, going to the shop for the 13th time, and for a month or more at a time. So those days are gone. Now people are going to have to decide to buy that thing or lease that thing at a real payment. And I don't know that people are going to be willing to do that, because we are eliminating I couldn't resist that payment. It was so low, I had to do it. That's going to go away on September 30th. So with that, everybody, let me know your thoughts here. Do you think the Dodge Charger Daytona EV is dead because of this? I think so. There's no way they can take this hit in the price or money factor. There's no way they can get where they have been to be able to get people to be willing to buy or lease that thing. So with that, along with all the problems that exist. So please like, subscribe, comment, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye-bye.